No implies boundaries, which is totally fine. But when you start saying no to financial and/or experiential items, the metaphysical effect it has on your life is massively detrimental. When you live on no, you'll create more no. Do you have the money? No. Do you want to go do this? No. Dad, may I have this? No. They got us as a country and as a people so deep in the nose that you couldn't even say yes to God anymore. You couldn't even say yes to your miracles. How many of you are conditioned to say no to things that you shouldn't actually be saying no to? No to opportunities, no to memories. There's nothing worse than saying no to a memory. If you're saying no to creating a memory that's foundational and that's impactful, you'll block everything good that God has for you. And the theft of the American public created a society of no. They were stealing like you can't even believe. No progress, no fun, no family, no community, no barbecues, no nothing. Just no's all over the place. You go through times in life that you must say yes. Yes to risk, and yes to miracles. God loves yes. It's time to say yes again.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Today is April 15th, 2025. Shout out to everybody catching this on the live. If you're catching this on the live, come on in, come on in. If you're catching this on the replay, type in replay in the comment section down below. Little housekeeping before we jump into everything. I want to give a huge shout out to the moderators in the chat. Shout out to the mods in the chat. And then I want to give a huge shout out to everybody catching this on the replay or in the live chat. Excuse me. Everybody that's catching this on the live chat. Shout out to everybody catching this on the live chat. And shout out to everybody catching this on the replay too. Let's go. Little housekeeping stuff. If you're catching this on the replay, just type in replay in the comment section down below. Also, I'm going to place timestamps at the bottom of this video so you can move forward, backwards, whatever your heart may desire. Through the topics today. Hopefully everybody had a good day. Let's get a quick roll call. What's going on, Rob? What's going on? My mind in the house. What's going on, Joe? What is up, Missy? Hope everybody's doing amazing today. Today, my mindset is tax day, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the tax day. The tax man is coming. I already did my taxes. I had to do them. Had to do them. It's just the way it is. Pretty soon, the IRS is going to be gone, though, so we're going to have the External Revenue Service. Speaking of taxes, I've been having some conversations with some folks, and they've been on the fence about even doing their taxes. I'm like, dude, you just do your taxes, because the External Revenue Service, the IRS, all this other stuff that's still there. I'm not a financial advisor, but I would say to do your taxes, just do them. What's going on, Digital Revolution? What is up, Tina? Tina from Texas. End of the IRS. Abolishing income tax will cause a fast reparations of trillions now stashed offshore tax havens, along with tsunami of new investments in the United States. Boom. There we go. All right. So like I said, I'll place timestamps at the bottom of this so you can jump forward and back if you're catching this on the replay. Hopefully those taxes come out good, my mind. Hopefully those taxes come out good. All right. Let's make sure that I got everything handled here. Let's jump into this, shall we? In this show, we're going to cover a couple different things. We're going to cover, we got knives in schools, TikToks from China, and Joe Biden still speaking after sundown. If you thought the situation that occurred last week was crazy and upside down, we got some stuff rolling in this week that is bananas. This week we've got stab-happy teenagers walking free, which is crazy. Harvard crying broke. TikTok turning your kid into a customs broker, and Joe Biden giving speeches at night. We're going to start off in Frisco, Texas, where Apparently, the new extracurricular activity is knife fights at a track meet. 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, not to be confused with the basketball player. This is the one that's prison bound. Got his bond slashed from $1 million to $250,000 after stabbing another teenager to death. Yes, in Texas. Yes, at a school event. And yes, he's already out because the people are saying he was a good student, good grades, captain of the football team, and now apparently he's captain of the varsity stabbing squad. So let me get this straight here. If you kill somebody, but you got a 4.0, and your mom starts a GoFundMe, you walk free before the other kid's funeral services is over? Come on. It's not justice. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Joe Biden gave his first post-presidential speech, and it was after 4 p.m. It's a big deal, considering the fact Biden's bedtime is 4 p.m. He typically would already be in bed, and 2 episodes in on Murder, She Wrote. Shows up 30 minutes late, rambles about zombies and Social Security, and takes a swipe at Elon Musk and Trump without actually saying their name, trying to be cool like Mark Zuckerberg, saying move fast and break things. Joe, you've already done that. You had 4 years to do it. Can't make this up. He also jokes about a 300-year-old person that receives Social Security benefits. Biden's looking for him because he wants to put him back on the voter rolls. Trump freezes $2 billion in Harvard funding because Ivy League schools, crown jewel, want to keep pushing DEI while cashing in federal checks. Harvard is suing. Obama's tweeting. And we're wondering how a school with a $50 billion endowment can still play victim. You want to teach math is racist? Cool, but don't expect to do it on our dollars. Speaking of hacks, we're going to talk about China. Meanwhile, Trump hits Beijing with Chinese tariffs. The Chinese Communist Party, is firing back, but they're firing back with TikTok hacks. This is hitting my feed crazy, showing Americans how to buy direct from Chinese sweatshops. And the worst part about it is American people are clicking, American people are buying, and American people are doing free trade espionage for the pastel hoodie that they found on Amazon. Is China winning? I don't know. While we're too busy, some Americans are too busy unboxing fake Jordans in slow motion to care. But hey, at least the steel workers are finally getting some hope with Trump's tariffs. While Harvard throws these tantrums and TikTok sells out Americans, the working class just might get their jobs back. Let's jump in. Before we jump into anything, I came across this clip on TikTok and I thought I'd share it with you. We've seen all these liberal protests and things like that. What's going on, LA? We've seen all these liberal protests going on and people are asking questions. They're just asking questions. Check out this clip here.
Today.
Well, he's a liar, don't you think?
What do you think is the biggest lie he's told?
I think everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. I think everything that he says, you should believe the opposite.
Any specific examples?
Where do I even begin? What do you...
You can come join.
This is my over. He already has. The tariffs are not going to cost the American people money. Junior? That he's not going to lie to us. Trust me, everything will be fine.
They don't even know how to answer questions. Let me know what you guys think about What's going on, Tina? What's going on, Margie? Nice to see you, Margie. What's going on, Terry? Tina in the house. What's up, Desiree? All right. FJB. Already hot. Already coming in hot. All right. So we have this individual, this kid from the track meet situation. If you're not familiar with it, this was at a school event. This individual, this teen stabbing suspect, walks free, and Frisco is absolutely furious here. Let me remove this, pop this up. Cool. Here we go. It's kind of wild that, you know, you can bring a knife to a high school track meet. And there's not even, I don't even have a punchline for this. This is just ridiculous. The 17-year-old named Carmelo Anthony, not to be confused with the basketball player. I'm sure the basketball player is absolutely upset that this individual has the same name, because if you look up Carmelo Anthony, you know, these two photos kind of show simultaneously side by side. So it's not the NBA legend Carmelo Anthony. This is the one that's prison bound, the one that's going to be somebody's prison bait in some capacity. He was actually just released from jail after the judge slashed his bond from $1 million. Originally, it was $1 million down to $250,000. It's a 75% discount for stabbing somebody. I didn't know that they offered coupons for attempted murder or murder for that. He just walked out of jail in his suit, silent as a mime, like he was going to prom. Meanwhile, the family of the victims in Frisco are planning their son's funeral, and the twin brother is planning the funeral. But let's jump into this here, because this is wild.
Anthony's accused of stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a track meet between their schools. Witnesses say the two got into a fight over seating, that Metcalf pushed Anthony, and that's when Anthony pulled a knife from his bag and stabbed him in the heart. Metcalf died in his twin brother's arms, and court records say Anthony admitted to the stabbing and asked officers if this could count as self-defense. And both Carmelo Anthony's parents, along with Austin Metcalf's parents, were both inside the courtroom earlier this morning. As you can imagine, both parties, both quiet and somber. Andrew?
Sarah, just a couple of questions. When is the next court hearing? I mean, how long is Anthony going to be in this kind of home detention here?
That's to be determined at this point. Right now, Frisco PD just working on collecting evidence and giving that to the district attorney's office. They will then review it and then present that before a grand jury. So really on the DA's timeline, along with Frisco PD. As for Carmelo Anthony, yes, he'll be on house arrest. He cannot leave his home without the judge knowing. Of course, he will have a leg monitor as well and will be under tight watch of his family, his friends at that home. And just learned a little bit more about his background and then what that home life will look like moving forward as he fights those charges from home now.
All right, Sarah.
You know, I don't think that this individual is a particularly he's a flight risk, but for him to be released on bail with that 75% discount, I think it's crazy to me. His attorneys are acting, his attorney is acting like this kid tripped and fell on a knife on accident, but this individual actually stabbed this individual and murdered him at a high school track meet. It's wild. The judge, Angela Tucker, says the bond isn't punishment. It's just to make sure that you show up to court, which I agree with. But this individual, this was murder. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. And meanwhile, his family had started a GoFundMe page with, get this, over $420,000 in donations to the particular bond. A portion of it went to the bond fund. And they're saying that this individual, that they're using some of the GoFundMe money to purchase a new home for protection for Carmelo Anthony. The family is taking that money from the GoFundMe, not for legal fees or anything like that, but to buy a new home for protection. So let me get this straight here. Your son murders somebody in plain daylight, kills somebody, goes to prison. You start a GoFundMe, and then you end up getting a new home. Sounds kind of.
Sarah Allegre there live for us in Frisco, Texas. Sarah, thanks for bringing us the details on this story. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right, in the meantime here, it's not only our colleague there, Sarah Allegre with Fox, it's also our colleague there at Fox 4 Dallas, our friend reporter Stephen Dial. He's also on this story. He filed this report as well. Let's listen.
17-year-old Carmelo Anthony was silent after bonding out of the Collin County Jail and being placed on house arrest.
How is this self-defense?
2 days after the family of Austin Metcalf.
Thank you for the correction, LJ. It wasn't necessarily a GoFundMe. It's Give, Send, Go. So it's a similar platform to GoFundMe. Excuse me about that.
Buried their son. They were at the Collin County Courthouse for a bond reduction hearing Monday. Carmelo Anthony is accused of stabbing and killing Metcalf at a Frisco track meet earlier this month. The case has quickly become national news, drawing a lot of attention, resulting in threats and increased security at the courthouse.
Threats and, talk of race war and all kinds of insanity isn't good for, obviously, the Anthony family. It's not good for the Metcalf family.
Cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom, but we did capture the Anthony family arriving. His father, Andrew, testified in the hearing. District Court Judge Angela Tucker said that she's never gotten this volume of calls and had to have this level of security in the courtroom in her 13 years on the bench. Court documents say Anthony stabbed Metcalf during a fight. When an officer arrived, court documents say Anthony told the officer, "I was protecting myself." Collin County.
So you brought a knife to a high school track meet. I don't think this situation is deemed at self-defense by any means for somebody who pushed you in that capacity.
District Attorney Greg Willis spoke after the hearing.
The judge has made the call, and so what's important is what's next, and it's our job to be level-headed, to be fact-based, and to follow the truth wherever it leads.
Anthony's father testified he's taking a leave from work because of the incident, and his wife is a stay-at-home mother with 3 other children. During the hearing, the prosecution brought up the fact that more than $400,000 have been raised for the Anthony family, saying a reduction is not needed because they have the funds. A big question in this case will be, why did Anthony bring a weapon to a high school stadium? It's a question that was asked of his attorney.
That's an understandable question, but it's not something that, frankly, we're prepared to even go into.
All right, our thanks there to our friend at Fox 4 Dallas, reporter Stephen Dial. So that's the news in this story. I know you've been following it extremely closely. This.
Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the chat. Thank you, LJ, because it was a go, send me, go. Whatever the scenario is, they're raising money for this individual's bail, and I get it. But at the end of the day, they said that, hey, they're going to use some of those funds to secure a new home, which homie's not going to be living in that home. Carmelo Anthony ain't going to be living in that home because he's going to jail. He's going to be living in a cell. So the home is going to be for the family, not necessarily for Mr. Anthony. Let me know what you guys think about this. I'm going to drop into the comment section here. Let's see here. He brought a knife to a sports event and he wanted to murder. They listened to violent lyrics from early childhood. They are angry with the chips on their shoulder. You know, I agree with that. I agree. The rhetoric that comes out of rap lyrics, gangbanger music, all this other stuff is, it kind of perpetuates this situation with this individual. Hey, bang, bang, gang, gang, whatever the scenario is. This kid shouldn't even have brought a knife to the freaking track meet. And now this kid's going to go to jail trying to be hood or whatever the scenario is. So I agree with that. That boy has destroyed that whole family forever. Yep. This racism BS is getting tiresome, and it's all because of scummy white liberals who enable this. You know, there is that component of it where they're talking about racism in this particular scenario. You know, imagine if the scenarios were reversed and a white kid stabbed a black kid, it would be more prominent in the news cycle. But because it was a black kid who stabbed a white kid, it's at least in my view, it's not as apparent. This shouldn't even necessarily be a race issue. This should be just an issue with individuals and their mindset. Because you shouldn't even be bringing a knife to a track meet. LA writes, I agree with you, LJ. His family is getting rich off of what he did. And that's the most wild part about this. You know, they've raised $420,000. They're probably going to buy a home. They bailed them. I don't know if they live in an existing home, but you can use your home for bail. I don't know. This liberal judge, he may get off on self-defense. I hope not. I hope not. If he gets off on self-defense, that would be wild to me. Now you got a new home and playground and play Grand Theft Auto. Yep. It's a wild story. I wasn't necessarily going to cover it because it's kind of a, you know, they are throwing this race card in this situation. Carmelo Anthony released from jail after Texas judge lowers the bond. Angela Tucker decided to grant and reduce the bond under the scores of the fundamental aspects of the legal system. I don't know. I don't think this kid should have got a reduction of the bond. But on the other hand, this gentleman is not a flight risk by any means. Either way, this dude's going to jail. This dude's going to be going to jail for a long time, trying to be thug, trying to play real life Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, that was not self-defense. It was definitely not self-defense. LJ writes, they're moving into an $800,000 home. This was news just today. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So they came up. They came up. Not good. Jesus, please come back soon. Amen to that. I don't know if it's true, but I've seen somewhere that he posted on V. Lots of distractions. Yep. On X, sorry. Wild, 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 wild. All right, let's jump into this situation. Joe Biden's back from he did his post-presidential speech last night. Kind of rambled on. It was after 4 p.m., past his bedtime. Talked about Social Security. It was a Social Security conference in Chicago. I'm not going to bore you guys with the entire but White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt summed it up perfectly. She said she was shocked that Joe Biden was even still awake. He was scheduled at 4:45 p.m., showed up at 5:15. So that's right on time for Joey B. You know, better late than never, I guess. Then he starts mumbling on about Trump and Elon and Doge, the disestablishment, the Social Security system. And he doesn't really mention their names. He just says, hey, who the hell do they think they are? So on and so forth. He gets fired up. He yells, typical Joe Biden stuff. And then he talks about, the zombies of the Social Security system wanting to meet a 300-year-old individual that's still collecting Social Security. Yeah, let's jump into this. I just have some of these clips from X. I originally had a full speech lined up, but there's no need for it.
And I'd never seen hardly any black people in Scranton at the time I was only going in fourth grade. And I remember seeing the kids going by at the time called colored kids on a bus going by. And I had never seen.
Here, let's actually jump into this here.
$1 billion to reduce the backlogs and improve customer service. We slashed wait times for folks in need. We're calling the 1-800 number. We got it down to under 13 minutes. It used to be 3 times that long when we took office. Made it easier for people to get help with their claims online. Reduced how long it takes to review a case. We fixed the appeal system to make it uniform in all 50 states, which made a difference. We strengthened the anti-fraud measures to protect people's identities and to make sure benefits are going to people who actually they belong to. By the way, those 300-year-old people getting that Social Security, I want to meet them because I like to figure out how they live out.
I don't even know why he would make a joke about that, because I'm sure his administration clearly knew about what was going on in the Social Security piece. I thought we were done with this doofus.
Hell of a thing, man. I'm looking for longevity because it's hell when you turn 40 years old. But as a result, by the time we left office, we had improved every single line of customer service, from applying for disability to filing an appeal to reporting fraud. It all became more efficient and more effective. And I'll bet it made your jobs easier too in the process. Now, these achievements may not sound so glamorous to most people, but they're absolutely essential. And might be one of the most important jobs of any elected official is to make sure the government works for the people, works for all people. It's understandable. They can understand what it is.
I don't want to continue on with this speech because I don't want to bore you guys with this, because this, I didn't even watch the full speech. I was just watching the clips, and I read an article about this. He does have some audacity actually showing up, especially taking aims to billionaires, quote unquote billionaires, quoting tech bros, trying to be like Mark Zuckerberg, ranting about these Social Security zombies. And, he did all of this past his bedtime, because we know that he goes to bed at about 4 o'clock. So this was way past his bedtime. He goes on and he starts shouting and yelling. And then they did the traditional thing. If he starts rambling on, they just turn on the music. So they basically just cut him off, just like they did when he was president. Like, I don't know. This guy ruined. I think it was one of the worst administrations of our lifetime. Open border policies, among a lot of other things. I don't know if this is Joe Biden's attempt to a comeback tour or whatever the situation is, but he's definitely going to need to nap for 3 days after this. And he has the audacity to talk about the 300-year-old individual that's on Social Security. Come on. Of course, he's speaking in Chicago, one of the most liberal cities in the nation. Yep. Speaking of Chicago, they decided to cancel Cinco de Mayo because of ICE. It would have been a good opportunity for ICE to pick up some hombres, but they're canceling Cinco de Mayo parade. I don't even want to watch the rest of this speech, guys. I had this speech lined up, but I personally don't want to watch it, and I'm sure you guys don't want to watch it either. So we're just going to move on to the next topic here. Here's what Caroline Leavitt had to say about former President, stolen President Joe Biden's speech.
Former President Biden. He's set to deliver his first major speech since leaving office tonight. He plans to talk about what I'm told will be Social Security under the current administration, closing of offices, longer wait times, harder for seniors and people with disabilities to access earned benefits, is what Democrats have been saying today. I wanted to get the president's response, or if he plans to respond to this, and comments on what Democrats are calling cuts to Social Security.
My first reaction when seeing former President Biden was speaking tonight was I'm shocked that he is speaking at nighttime. I thought his bedtime was much earlier than his speech tonight. I understand the topic of his speech will be Social Security. Let me make it very clear ahead of former President Biden's remarks. President Trump, is absolutely certain about protecting Social Security benefits for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens and seniors who have paid into this program. He will always protect that program. He campaigned on it. He protected it in his first term, and he's back again to continue protecting it.
Amen to that. Shout out to LJ. Enjoy your walk, LJ. Appreciate you. Appreciate you for stopping by. Justice Judy, blah, blah, blah. You are still an idiot, Joe Biden. Yep. I don't even know why I had this on my agenda today. Wasn't a good idea, but oh well. Be sure to smash the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithms. Next, we're going to talk about Trump freezing Harvard's billions of dollars over woke policies here. Donald Trump just got $2 billion in funds frozen, or Harvard just got $2 billion in funds frozen by Trump and the Trump administration because apparently diversity, equity, and inclusion doesn't include basic accountability. Now, the Ivy League school is one of the richest schools in the nation, and now they're crying poor. Boo-hoo to them, right? Harvard is one of the first universities to officially tell the Trump administration to go pound sand after he demanded that they ditch the DEI reform and their woke hiring policies and to stop handing out degrees like their participation trophies. Trump responded the only way that he could by freezing $2 billion in federal contracts. Threatening their tax-exempt status, then called them a political entity pushing terrorist-inspired sickness. Let's jump into this.
Tonight, firing back at Harvard University after the school basically set up a showdown with the Trump administration, rejecting some of the White House's demands on its policies. A White House spokesperson saying, in part, President Trump wants to end unchecked anti-Semitism and that Harvard's response could put its federal funding at risk. But Harvard's president says the university will not surrender its independence and that neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government. The Trump administration had something like 10 demands for Harvard, including the elimination of DEI programs and the restriction of acceptance of international students who are, and I'm quoting here, hostile to American values and institutions. Stephanie Gosk is joining us now. You couldn't think of a perhaps bigger name in the world of college universities to go basically head to head with the Trump administration on some of these controversial changes that the White House wants. What happens next here?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Hallie. First of all, it's worth pointing out that Harvard receives $9 billion worth of federal funding from the government.
That is wild right there. Harvard receives $9 billion in federal funding.
Government. And so that's a real hammer that the government has, and can hold that above Harvard University, try to get them to make some of these changes. This letter that Harvard received on Friday night is really long, and it has a lot of very specific things that they are calling on the university to do to get this funding. Among them are things like hiring an independent third party to determine whether there's anti-Semitism on campus and in the curriculum. Also to make sure that there's diversity of opinion on campus. And you've heard a bunch of White House officials, including the vice president himself, talking about how there is throughout our universities, a kind of sickness where there is no diversity of opinion. And this is clearly part of an effort to change the way universities operate. And they're holding this funding, which is really how research is done at universities, in large part because of this funding. They are holding that over the heads of schools and universities around the country.
Harvard is a wealthy school. They just are, right? How much of an impact is this going to have on them? Let's say they were to use that federal funding. To your point, Steph, in the world of carrots and sticks, I mean, that's a big one. How much of an impact could this actually have?
Well, really big. I mean, $9 billion is a lot of money. The school very clearly relies on it. And yes, they are an incredibly wealthy school. But if that is removed, that will change how research is done on campus. But interestingly, Harvard taking a stand in a very public way, and not just about itself, also saying that universities and schools around the country should follow their lead. They are calling this a violation of their First Amendment rights.
Blah, 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 right? This is what the fight's really about. It's really about the DEI, right? Trump told every university to scrap that crap or they lose the cash. And Harvard chose wokeness over funding. Columbia University already folded. Princeton is another one. Penn, Cornell, their funding already getting clipped. And yet Harvard out here playing like Rosa Parks with $50 billion endowments. They did do a protest over here with Harvard. Let's jump into this.
Trump made new threats today to Harvard University after the federal government froze billions of dollars in funding. Harvard rejected a list of demands from the Trump administration over school policies and leadership. WBC's Louisa Mollers in Cambridge with a look at how Harvard's decision could reverberate beyond campus.
I think so many of us want to work at a place and be part of a community that stands up for its principles, right?
Harvard political science professor Ryan Eno says there's reason to celebrate, even as the university faces a $2.2 billion federal funding freeze from the Trump administration.
If you don't have that, you don't have anything.
The White House higher ed battle stems from the pro-Palestinian encampments that grew at Harvard and elsewhere last year. Last week, the Trump administration's anti-Semitism task force asked the university to implement broad reforms like changes to admissions policies, an audit of diversity on campus, and to stop recognizing some student clubs. Harvard's response? A flat no, saying it threatens the university's independence and constitutional rights. Then the government pulled the funds, dealing a blow to Harvard's research budget.
It's not just that things have been stopped cold, which a lot of it has, like one day they're doing research and then the next day they can't. It's also the fact that they can't plan.
Harvard Medical School, for example, said federal funds enabled innovations in cancer immunotherapy, treatments for diabetes and obesity, therapies for autoimmune diseases, and the first gene editing therapy for sickle cell disease and more.
Harvard is trying to,
Harvard is trying to fight back here. And they're the first ones cocky enough to think that they can actually beat Trump and the Trump administration regarding these particular strongholds and funding. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. We got our favorite anchor here, Miss Caitlin Collins, talking about the federal funding, the freeze of the $2.2 billion with Harvard. I want to give kind of both sides to this here. It looks like some of you guys, Terry says they wanted gender studies. Then let them pay for it. Exactly. Digital revolution writes, maybe Harvard will have to cut their gender studies program. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Cocky, right?
unfolding between President Trump and his battle against some of America's top universities, announcing this evening more than $2.2 billion in federal funding has been frozen for multi-year grants and contracts at Harvard. That comes after Harvard said tonight that it was rejecting a list of demands from the administration on sweeping changes and would fight back against them. Those demands came from a federal task force that the administration says is combating anti-Semitism on college campuses following protests against the war in Gaza. But the list of demands included things like dismantling diversity initiatives, auditing academic and hiring practices, and also installing leaders who are committed, the White House said, to implementing the changes they want to see. We saw a response from Harvard tonight and the legal team responding to that, saying, quote, "The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government."
Yeah, but also you're getting $9 billion in federal funding of taxpayer money. So now one of the richest schools, look at this right here. White House targets university funding, Harvard at $9 billion. One of the richest schools in America is attempting to combat Donald Trump for refusing to keep their $2 billion of taxpayer pipeline flowing through them because they decided not to drop the DEI crap. Let's keep pretending that that stuff actually works here. You know, Trump said no woke, no cash. Harvard said, okay, then we'll sue. This is a ridiculous meltdown to me because you're getting taxpayer funded money. I think, some of these schools, man, some of these schools need to get their stuff checked. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section. Did you just assume Harvard's gender? Yeah, I did. I did just assume Harvard's gender. You can reverse type 2 diabetes with diet. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Absolutely, 100%. Diet and movement. You can reverse type 2 diabetes like that. Easy. Terry also writes, Harvard is overrated. Yeah. Harvard teaching America pussification. Got him. Oh man. So some of these schools, a lot of these schools have already dropped their funding. Caitlin Collins goes on to talk to one of these individuals from Harvard. just drop the situation. Just drop it. And you receive funding. They already receive a bunch of funding. And a lot of these schools they're indoctrination camps. Especially places like this. Serving woke bullcrap on a plate for young students. Caroline Levitt had something to say about this. She was asked about, why do Ivy League schools get so much money?
Peter. Thank you, Caroline. To follow up on something that you just said, why do Ivy League schools get so much federal funding?
It's a very good question. And it's a question the president has obviously raised in his discussions and negotiations with not just Harvard, but also Columbia and many other Ivy League institutions. We have the anti-Semitism task force, which the president promised and delivered on. The anti-Semitism task forces across the government, representatives from various federal agencies who meet on a weekly basis to discuss the question that you just raised. And I think a lot of Americans are wondering why their tax dollars are going to these universities when they are not only indoctrinating our nation's students, but also allowing such egregious illegal behavior to occur.
I want to know what you guys think about that in the chat. Let me know, why do you think that Ivy League schools receive so much funding? Let me know in the chat. Drop it down in the chat or drop it down in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about this. Let's see. Okay, so we have this thing that's kind of been flooding my news feed quite a bit because of the tariffs. Hold on, let me jump into this real quick. Officially, historically, narratives is a gigantic lie and cover up. Yep. Lots of alum are secret societies. Yeah. All right, I got this situation that's been complete hypocrites. Yeah. Yep. Then you get this basket weaving degree with a study with a minor in social studies. They've been infiltrated. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, I'm going to jump into this next topic here. This next topic's been flooding up my news feed quite a bit. China's been bouncing back and forth, because of the tariffs and the Trump and the tariff war, quote unquote. China's now using TikTok to bypass tariffs, and some Americans are actually clicking and taking the bait from it. China said, hey, you're going to slap tariffs on us, then we're going to hit back and we're going to utilize TikTok, for example. By the way, TikTok didn't extend, they didn't extend their negotiations, but they're hitting back with TikTok tutorials. Chinese influencers are now teaching Americans how to beat Trump's tariffs. And some Americans are thanking them for this. They're like, okay, you can bypass Amazon, you can bypass everything. Chinese TikTok accounts are showing some Americans, a lot of Americans, on how to buy products like Nike, Lululemon, and God knows what else directly from Chinese retailers. And they're saying there's no middleman, no markup, and there's no shame. And this is what China has been known for, right? Taking particular IP and then repurposing it and then selling it, right? And they're doing the same thing here by utilizing a TikTok tactic to get some Americans to click and buy directly from China. They're literally filming videos telling Americans that you can just use this particular app and then it'll get shipped directly from China, faster, cheaper, and quote unquote more authentic, because nothing says authentic American capitalism like buying your American brand sneakers from a Chinese Etsy store. Let's jump into this.
At Hermes boutique will cost you 38,000 USD. But what is the real cost out of the factory? Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you, step by step.
These have been some of the most watched and very visible videos online over the past few days as well. If you're a TikTok user, if you're on Instagram as well, people are talking about these starting to appear, but they're essentially these buyers or these videos that they're purport to show people that are in factories or different supplies possibly. Again, none of this is really confirmed, so it's sort of, you don't get a lot of transparency, I guess. But what they're doing is taking items and then breaking down the cost of those items to essentially say that there's a huge inflation that's just based on the Western brand value alone, or the French brand value, because that first video we saw was an Hermes bag, for instance, the Birkin, and saying if you actually broke down all of the different components, you're only talking about several $100s, just over $1,000, for instance, versus paying, say, 38,000 US in store.
Yeah, and I would imagine you're actually getting, I wouldn't say you're getting pushback, because we reached out to some of the actual brands themselves and they've declined to comment on this, and whether or not we are actually seeing some of the influencers at the actual factories where their actual goods are created. But I think it underscores.
Of course, they're not going to show the actual factories on where these goods are manufactured. They're not going to show that, because if they did, they'll show kids directly working in sweatshops and manufacturing products.
The tariff story from a really, this reminds me of decades back of the role Alibaba played when you wanted to find something. You wanted to source something from China. They provided that platform for you. In this case, the information has probably arguably gone a step further and a step deeper. And I think the point that Cameron Johnson was making yesterday, it's, the rules of the game have changed. This is the democratization of information on if you're a buyer in Western markets and you want to be able to understand how much it actually costs for your Jordans or your Lululemon varied amount of goods that they do, you're actually getting them at very, very cheap. The cost to make them is actually, the margins you get from these companies is actually quite substantial.
Which I think we knew to an
And the
extent,
tariffs.
of course, that you're always going to have that markup. But I think
Yeah.
what's been interesting is just the sheer volume of posts that we've been seeing. And they've
Hard to
been,
miss them.
yes. And that kind of questions, is this sort of any sort of calculated attempt? Certainly, it's just another signal of that pushback that we see from China against these tariffs.
So Chinese TikTokers are being influenced to dance to show your kids how to purchase directly from China. How many more knockoff bags do Americans need, right? Trump imposes tariffs. China mocks by using TikTok. Americans help the Chinese go viral. I'm sure some people are going to be buying crap directly from some of these manufacturers. And it's going to take 12 to 36 weeks to come into play. The reason why some of these markups happen is because a lot of these companies, if you're familiar with the way that the business works, is they're able to buy in bulk. Yes, Nikes are manufactured and made in China, but they buy so many of them, they can pop them in a container and then get it. Then they actually store the product. Americans are helping these individuals, these manufacturers, go viral. And it's saying, oh, why don't you buy the fake Jordans? It's wild. Let me jump into the comment section here. Jessica Velasquez, what's going on? She says, adios, TikTok. Those are basket weavers taking the bait. Yes, they are. They should have never lifted the ban on TikTok. People would have moved on to something else eventually. 100%. Trump's tariffs triggered a move to real money, gold from UK. Yep. Universities have been teaching students the art of the ripoff. One of the way. China launches a new system to teach people how to buy knockoffs. Awesome. Typical China, stealing IP and wanting direct to consumer. All right, let's jump into this next topic here. We got this next topic here. Steel workers are optimistic about Trump's tariffs, which is good. CNN did an interview with some steel workers, and owner of a particular manufacturing plant in Ohio. And surprisingly, CNN didn't get the answers that they wanted.
I'm very optimistic, and I agree.
You're optimistic.
I am. I'm extremely optimistic.
Optimistic? Not the word some might use to describe their outlook on the economy, given all the back and forth with tariffs. But here at Swanton Welding, just outside Toledo, Ohio, The company's owner, Norman Zeider, says thanks to Trump's tariff tactics, he and his workers are feeling good about the future of the business, despite all the ups and downs on Wall Street.
Wall Street affects us to a certain extent, but not a lot.
Welders like Ethan Sanderson also feeling bullish, hoping all that is happening with tariffs will eventually mean more work and income for people like him, which cannot come soon enough, given he's about to be a new father.
Once everything gets sorted out, that it'll help us out in the long run.
Swanton Welding has been a part of this community since Zeider's grandfather, a World War II veteran, started it back in 1956 with just $100 in his pocket. Maintaining it has been tough. The U.S. Steel and wide swaths of the manufacturing industry have been on the decline for decades due to factors such as declining demand and the inability to compete in global markets. Toledo once buzzed during the steel manufacturing heyday in the 1950s. Now, the unemployment rate is 6.6%, compared to the national average of 4.1%.
We're one of the last standing ones in this area.
Still standing and getting a boost from Trump's tactics. Zeider says 5 international companies have already reached out to do business.
We had Italy, we had France, we had Great Britain. We had a Canadian company reach out to us.
You had a Canadian company?
Yeah.
He says it's the first time in 70 years a Canadian company has called wanting to work with them.
And this is the play, right? This is the play to get some of these other countries to say, hey, let's bring back American manufacturing. Let's get everything, not everything, but a majority of things manufactured in the United States. CNN was probably going in this interview expecting something completely different, saying, "Oh, we're not doing so well." Long term, again, like I've said many times, this is something that is going to help us long term. Stuff like this, American manufacturing and steel, bringing back the steel industry here in the United States.
Across town at Wurzel's bike shop, owner Jill Wurzel also has heard from an overseas distributor.
I just got that a few minutes ago before you came in, and I was reading it and I about had a heart attack.
Wurzel received an email from a Taiwanese company informing her if tariffs do go into effect, she may have to pay an increase of up to 79%.
That's a huge impact on a small business.
She buys from China, Taiwan, and Cambodia and worries how tariffs would impact costs to customers and her ability to maintain her staff.
Yo, I didn't even know bike shops still existed. I know that there's a few bike shops here in the Valley. There's a couple of them that are particularly bike shops for mountain bikes, like mountain bike explorations and mountain biking, downhill mountain biking, things like that. Specifically over here by the mountains, because the mountains are really close here. So a lot of people do, mountain biking. So there are mountain biking shops, but this woman seems to have kids' bikes and stuff like that. I didn't know that those bike shops like that still existed.
Payroll would be reduced and somebody might lose their job, or a full-time person will be part-time.
The Wurzel family has been in the bike business for 80 years since her grandfather founded it in 1945. The threat of tariffs now a concern for a new generation of employees. Wurzel's nephew and his wife just quit their jobs a few weeks ago to join the family business.
We're a little bit nervous, but we trust in Jill. We know that she knows this business really well.
Back at Swanton Welding, also a new generation, one hoping Trump's tactics will benefit their industry. Allison Fagerman is an 18-year-old welder who works with her father.
I'm hoping that it gets better, and I'm sure it will. I feel like we're on a bumpy road, and eventually we'll get to a smoother road.
Jason Carroll.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I'm going to jump into the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about this. Steel workers are optimistic about Trump's tariffs. Let me know what you guys think about it. Drop it down in the comment section. I'm going to jump into the chat here. Let's see. Trump took Trudy Marbles at Mar-a-Lago for his keeps bag, not like The proud feminist really needed them anyways. The beautiful, big, brazen brass balls resonates. Greatness. Big balls matter. Amen to that. Amen to that. Leticia James just got sued by the Federal Housing Authority. Yes, yes, she did. I'm actually going to drop a video about that tomorrow. We'll drop into that tomorrow. I'm not against Chinese people who work hard. I'm against the government that takes advantage of them and the U.S., aka the buyer. I agree. A dislocated shoulder hurts to get put back into place. Some things hurt at first before they get better. Trump knows what he's doing. Yes. What a great analogy. Thank you, Joe. What a great analogy for that. Terry writes, there's e-bikes mostly now. Yeah, e-bikes are pretty cool. I like the e-bikes. They are. My buddy let me borrow his while he was stationed in Indiana for a while. It was awesome. I was using it to go to the grocery store and do some little runs and things like that. It was freaking cool. It made me inspired to get an e-bike. You can go on massive explorations with that, but yeah, there are an estimated 7,000 bike shops in the United States. You come with the facts, LJ. I appreciate you coming with the facts. Thank you. Thank you. Most of these e-bikes go for the price of a used car. Ain't that the truth? I've seen some ranging from $3,000 to $9,000, $13,000 for an e-bike. Some of them, I know that there's different types of e-bikes. There's type 1, type 2, type 3, I think up to type 5, and the types range based on speed. What's going on, Ricardo? I had a dislocated shoulder, so I know from that direct experience. Yep. I actually have two. I've had full reconstructive surgery on my right shoulder. I had to think about that. I had reconstructive shoulder surgery on my right shoulder. And then just through the overuse of the left shoulder, that one dislocated, but seems pretty good now. I make sure that I keep on the PT. In 2023, approximately 20.4 million bicycles were sold in the United States. This represents a market value of around $82 billion. Love it, LJ. Thank you for coming through with the facts. All right, guys. I am let me know what you guys think about, all these situations that happened over the past day here. We got we got this track meet which I'll keep a head situation on. We don't need to keep track of Joe Biden anymore. Harvard and these Ivy League schools. Let me know what you think about that. And then also let me know what you think about the steel industry coming back and these TikTokers saying that you can buy direct from the Chinese sweatshops. The Chinese sweatshops. When does a retailer ever get the chance to front run big institutional money? Just itching to dive in. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, I am going to jump on out of here. I'm going to go play with the pupperoo. I want to give a huge shout out to the moderators in the chat. Shout out to the mods in the chat. Thank you so much. And then shout out to everybody catching this on the live. And then also, if you're not part of the Discord group, tap into the Discord group. The link is in the description down below. Just heads up, my mind and Terry are hosting WrestleMania, WWE WrestleMania. If you're a WrestleMania fan, that'll be on April 19th and 20th. It's a 2-day event. You just got to be part of the Discord group. Tap into the link down below. There's a section in the Discord group that has wrestling or sports events, you just click that on the 19th and 20th. It'll be a 2-day event. I'm not 100% sure when that is going to start. My mind, let me know in the chat when that's going to start. And yes, it's this Saturday and this Sunday. So I'd love to see you guys. If you guys are wrestling fans, we'll do a giveaway towards the end of the week. If you're interested, again, this is absolutely free. We just want to get the community involved and enjoy some sports entertainment, if you would. So tap into Discord link. It's in the description down below. And then also you can tap into that to connect with some like-minded individuals just like yourself inside the chat. 6 p.m. EST it starts. Thank you so much, Cherry. I appreciate you. So it starts 6 p.m. EST on Saturday. So that is 3 p.m. PST. Awesome. Well, cool, guys. I am going to jump on out of here. Please drop your comments down below and smash the like button. And then do me a favor. Yeah, absolutely. Great show as always. Really appreciate you, Joe. Yeah, just do me a favor. Smash the like button, share, subscribe. And then I'll catch you guys tomorrow, 6 p.m. PST. I got to go play with this pup now. You guys have a nice night. I'll catch you on the next one.